Welcome to the Thrive Today podcast. I'm Natalie Bourne. I'm the media host for Thrive Today, and I'm the founder of Innovation Meets Leadership. Guys, I am so excited to talk to you today on the Thrive Today platform because we have a special guest. It's Dr. Sam Chan. He is a leadership consultant, and he's written over 23 books on the topic of leadership and change. And he actually consults with leaders all over the world about this topic. He has also been recently added to a list of the top 30 global leaders. So I'm excited for you to glean from him today. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Sam Chan.
Oh, what a joy it is to be with Natalie Bourne and knowing that we've got thousands of leaders that are listening and watching right now. I'm kind of nervous right now, but let's try our best. Let's try our best.
I love it. Well, I want to first start out by talking about Colleen Rouse, who's the founder of the Thrive Today platform, and she has just been a wonderful champion for women in leadership. I would love for you to just talk a little bit about how you guys know each other.
Oh, Colleen Rouse and her dear husband, Dennis Rouse. We've been friends for, I want to say from the early 90s. They were I was president of a Christian university in the city of Atlanta, and they were hosting this leadership roundtable at their church, and I got a little flyer in the mail. Now, you all don't know what a flyer is. A
Right.
flyer is a piece of paper folded over with a staple at one end and your address on the other. I'd never heard of Dennis and Colleen Rouse. So I just said, this sounds interesting. Let's go. And so I went to their place in Norcross, not at the present location, but the location behind that. And a lifelong journey began. I ended up serving on their board, and I just love Colleen Rouse. I love her heart. Her heart is so pure. It is. She says to me, I want to just pour into the lives of others. I want to give what I did not have in my life starting off. And what an encourager she is, huh? I mean, every time you meet with her, she's full of life, vivacious encouragement. So, well, enough about Colleen.
Well, I just love that because I've gone to Victory Church for over 20 years. So I've gotten a first row seat to see her and Pastor Dennis and just the value that they add to other people. Well, here's what I know. You wrote an amazing article in the premier edition of the Thrive Today magazine on the power of tension. And as I read not only that article, but then you also came to Victory and you preached on this topic, and it was a for many, many people in the congregation, it was a turning point for how they think about the tension that takes place in their life. So I'd love if you could tell us a little bit about the book and maybe just some things that you've learned about the power of tension.
So this book started off when I was working with different organizations, for-profit, non-profit, sacred, secular. And as I was working with them, I noticed that sometimes in meetings, when the conversation got tense, it became emotional.
Wow.
It became negative. It drove us further away from solutions. The temperament that is needed to really go to the next level, which everyone talks about, started fading away. And I got intrigued with the word tension. And the word tension, whenever someone says, oh man, that's going to be a tense meeting, it's like negative. The word tension is never used in a positive way. And I started thinking of the work that I do in leadership, as especially as a leadership consultant. Is tension something that we can utilize? Is tension something that can be helpful? And then I started realizing every building is built on tension points. Your bridge is among tension points. And then I started looking at our lives. If you're married, doesn't matter how perfect your marriage is. Brenda and I have been married for 42 years, and I
Wow.
can still tell you we still have tension moments. If you have children, there's going to be tension. If you have parents, there's going to be tension. If you go to school, there's going to be tension. You have a job, there's going to be tension. You go to church, oh yeah, there's going to be tension. Hey, how about traffic? You get in traffic, there's going to be tension. Nowadays, you go to a restaurant because servers are fewer and kitchen help is rarer. So, there's tension points. You're having to wait a little longer and food is taking a little longer to come out to you. All I'm trying to say is there's not a place in life that you're not going to feel tension.
Mhm.
So why do we run from it rather than harness the power of tension? So I wrote a book that came out in English. It came out in Spanish as well. Don't ask me to pronounce the Spanish version here, but uh, the title of the book is harnessing the power of tension. How can you harness tension? So we get our electricity because the tension in the water. There's tension all around us, and I think we as leaders, because there's a leadership uh, moment that we're having right now, we have to say to ourselves, okay, that's a tension point. How can I leverage that towards a positive outcome? And I think people run from tension because somehow people think that's negative, and I don't think that's negative at all.
Mm. That's so good. And I think, as a woman in leadership, oftentimes we don't learn at a very early age about tension and harnessing the power of tension. I think sometimes when you play sports, there's that tension and then there's an outlet. And for women in leadership, I think it's figuring out what does that outlook look like. So as you talk about tension, I'm curious, how can we truly leverage it? How can we recognize it when it's coming? And then how can we begin to harness it in a positive way?
So, first of all, understand that tension is totally human. It's not sinful. It is simply human. Jesus, I mean, if you look at the Gospels, if anybody had tension, he had tension, and tension's been the part of our journey just all the way from the book of Genesis. So tension started in heaven between Lucifer and God, and
Yeah.
then tension in the Garden of Eden between Adam, Eve, and God. Then tension between their sons Cain and Abel. Tension between David and his brothers and his king Saul. Tension Nehemiah as he's building the wall. Tension as Esther, who's inside the palace trying to rescue her people. Tension in the
Mhm.
New Testament, tension in the book of Acts, chapter 6. There's tension between the Greek widows and the Jewish widows. One is saying we are not getting food that we're supposed to get. Tension between Paul and Barnabas over Barnabas' nephew, Mark John.
Yeah.
I mean, you just read the Bible and it's full of tension. But is it also not full of God? Is it also not redemptive? It is
Yeah.
also not positive. Is it also not guiding our steps towards heaven? So, first of all, tension is totally human. Number two,
Mhm.
when tension happens, the first question you got to ask yourself is, what about this is making me tense? So it could
Yeah.
be I'm feeling inferior. It could be I'm feeling bullied. It could be that I'm feeling like they are being dismissive of me. It could be that I'm feeling disrespected. It could be that I had thought I'd get this, but I'm not getting that. I'm getting that. So just check yourself where you're going. And then you got to ask yourself, am I going to let tension drive me or am I going to control my tension? So
Mhm.
when I start feeling tension inside of me, I say to myself, okay, where's that coming from?
Yep.
And at this point, either I can burst out and have a fit and go through all of that and be dismissed even further as, oh, she's just an emotional person. Oh, you cannot talk to her unless she starts crying. I'd better not talk to her or she's going to feel this way. You know how
Right.
she is. Don't create that aura about you. Be
Wow.
known as somebody who understands it, can feel the tension, does not deny the tension, looks tension right in the eye, and finds a solution and moves through it.
Can you talk more about this idea of I thought versus what actually happened?
That's that. So you were listening in one of my things I was doing at Victory. So
Yeah.
all of attention is about two things: reality, expectation. Or let's go another way: expectation first and reality. So you expect
Yeah.
this and you get this, and the greater they are apart, the greater the tension between this and that. And
Yeah.
that is where I think if we can bring our expectation and reality as close together as possible, we're going to have lesser tension in our life. Now, You will never eliminate tension. In fact, even when you die, there's going to be tension at your funeral. Which
Yeah.
funeral have you not gone to that didn't have tension in it?
Mhm.
Which wedding have you not gone to when there wasn't tension in it? Hey, we got Thanksgiving coming up. We got Thanksgiving coming up.
That's right.
Yes. Which table are you going to be at where there's not going to be any tension? There's always Uncle Joe and Aunt Sally. Uh, and then there's Christmas. There's a Christmas party. There's going to be there's tension everywhere, and you cannot avoid tension. So say to yourself, this is the life that I have. Tension is not bad. I'm going to take it and turn it around and leverage it for myself. Therefore, I'm going to bring my expectation and my reality as close together as possible, and not try to think like, well, life ought to be this way. We've
Mm,
all lived long enough to figure out life, there's no ought to life. There's no it should be this way. There's no should, ought
mhm.
in life. Life is what it is. God trusts you in that moment to deal with that tension in the most biblical, Christian, and leadership way.
Wow. As I listen to you talk, I'm thinking about a lot of times I'm talking to leaders who they do that exact thing. I thought I was going to get this deliverable. I thought I was going to get this type of outcome and instead I got this. What I find and this is just what I've found is that up front oftentimes we don't communicate very well our expectation and then we're very disappointed on the back end. How do you help leaders navigate this when this might be happening organizational wide, like it's happening at all levels of their organization and they don't know how to harness the power of tension to have conversations that move people forward.
That's a great question, Natalie. So I used to do that, and I have reversed what I do. So I've been a leadership consultant for over 35 years. I'm an old man. Uh, and I used to ask, let's just say it's you and me, and I would say to you, hey, Natalie, here are my expectations.
Mhm.
Now, what I do is I say to Natalie, what are your expectations? What's the deliverable you're looking for? What's the delivery system you're looking for? What are the delivery expectations you're looking for? And what I'm then trying to do is to understand your expectations. Therefore, I can align my expectations on delivering on that. Now, you might say, I expect you to do this for me by next Wednesday. And I might say to you, in a perfect world, I think I could do that. But because there are so many moving parts,
Yep.
Natalie, I think I can deliver that for you, not on this Wednesday, but the Wednesday following that. Are you okay with that? And I think that interchange of clarifying expectations. So, when, in the last 3 years, I have this one sentence that guides everything that I do and goes to your question. Here's the one thing that I do in the last 3 years in my mind: things don't go wrong, they start wrong.
Mm,
Things don't go wrong, they start wrong. And that is to your point of clarifying expectations at the front end. The greater the clarity, the better we are. So let's talk about Can we talk about clarity just for a moment?
let's talk about clarity for sure.
I'm here to tell you, doesn't matter who you are, and you think you have been the clearest that you can be, there's still room for misunderstanding.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. So I was called to do a leadership roundtable, 15, 20 high level leaders. I was going to spend a day with them. And the CEO was hosting me for this leadership roundtable on his campus. So we're in the green room. I'm having a great time with the CEO. We are joshing, laughing, having a good time. And then it's time to go down to the conference room where people are going to be gathering. Well, it was not conference; it was a larger room. So we walked down into that room, and all of a sudden, I noticed that he is angry, not at me, but he is visibly. angry. And then he says out loud, I told them to set out tables and chairs. So I looked at the room, and there were those rectangular tables, the
Yep.
seminar style table. They were
Yep.
set there. I said, I see tables and chairs to him. He said, no, I wanted round tables. So I said to him, did you tell them to put round tables? His response to me was, what do I have to do? Draw pictures? And my answer to him was, yes.
Yes.
A picture on a
Expectation versus
napkin,
reality.
a picture on a napkin would have solved all of that.
Wow.
And all I want leaders to know today is, especially in the climate that we are operating in right now, is if there was ever a need for you to slow down your communication, don't talk about three things, talk about one thing. When you send a text message, talk about one. You may have three things to talk about, one thing at a time. Be as
I can't tell you how many times it's gotten me in hot water when I'm having a conversation with someone and we're trying to talk about 3 things in a text, and I've had the wrong thing get posted to a very large platform because I was approving point 1 and they thought I was approving point 2. So this
totally.
is real.
Oh, totally, totally. So what I do is, if I'm texting you, Natalie, and even though I have three things to talk about, I will send you number one. We settle that, then I'll send you number two. We settle that, then I'll send you number three. Every tension sentence is going to start with the same two words. I thought.
Yeah,
I thought you approved that. No, I approved number one. You thought I approved number three.
right.
So I want leaders to slow down. I
Mhm.
want leaders to compartmentalize their uh, their expectations, and I would also like leaders to ask themselves, "Have I been clear?" And then ask them, "Is there any question you have for me?" And the challenge is that if we don't have a culture of freedom, people will say, "I got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand," but they haven't.
Right.
So, yeah, clarity is a huge topic.
I love that because I think as a leader, the kindest thing we can do is not only be clear with our team, but we can teach them how to be clear back. I was just talking to a team member the other day and they said, "Well, when you send me something, I drop everything and do it." And I said, "You have permission to ask me questions, especially, do you need this now or can I do this 2 weeks later?" And so there's some assumptions I think as the receiver has to take responsibility for too, to say, I need to ask. I need to be the one to clarify and ask as well. And that give and take, that tension, so to speak, should go both ways, where we're not only asking, but also answering and making sure we're being clear on our side as well.
So in my life, and I'm going to pick up on that. In my life, I have a 3-point formula that has saved my hide. So whenever I am making an assignment or sending something out, I answer three questions. In one sentence, three questions. Who does what by when? I want you, or I want Natalie, or I want Sally, or I want Janice. I want you to do this, the what, which is the clarity part, by when.
Mhm.
Because if there's no when, it's not going to happen.
That's
Because
right.
ASAP does not do it. You know, and the other thing is, if everything is urgent, then nothing is important.
That's right.
So so I think in clarity, I'm always saying, who you need, 1 point person. Don't ever ask a group to do
Hmm.
anything. You gotta have a captain of a team. So who does what by when? And I have found in my life, if I can answer those three questions in my communication, it does not take away tension points, but certainly minimizes tension point. And all I'm looking for in my life is not to eliminate tension. I'm trying to harness it, use its power, and minimize it.
Wow, I love that. Well, I would love for our listeners to hear a little bit about some of the projects you're working on right now. You're very busy. I actually have several of your books sitting right behind me, and I know that you're constantly working on new projects. I'd love for you to tell them a little bit about a book you've either just released or maybe talk a little bit about the AVAIL Journal as well.
Oh, okay. So, when the shutdown happened, lockdown happened in March of 2020, uh, I used to travel, Natalie, I used to travel about 180 flights a year, about 150
Wow.
hotels. Yeah, it was crazy. It was just crazy. Uh, and when everything shut down, I still had that energy, right? I mean, that nervous energy
Yeah.
to like, I got to do something. I can't even leave my house, but I got to do something. So I started talking with my team, and we came up with a journal simply called. Let me see if I have one here. Yeah, I do. Simply called Avail. Avail Journal. It's like Thrive, but
Yes.
for Christian leaders. And
Mhm.
so we came up with that, and people can get it at availjournal.com or theartofleadership.com, either one. And then I started writing books. I got 3 books coming out this year. My
Wow.
latest 2 books are Ladder Leaders, in which I talk about the task, the transition, and the team. And then the other one that's doing really well is called Change Has Changed, because
Mhm.
the change itself has changed. Uh,
Yes.
the very nature of change has changed. And naturally, at this time in my life, I'm doing only 2 things. When you get older, you get to do fewer things. Anybody who says I am 75, but I still do everything I used to do when I was 20, didn't do much at 20.
Right.
So, so I'm doing 2 things. I'm creating content,
Mhm.
and I'm influencing influencers. Creating content, influencing.
Wow.
So I spend many, many hours every day thinking, reading, writing, congealing my thoughts, taking complex situations, making them simpler. Simplification is harder work than complicating something. That
Mhm.
makes it more user friendly. So I'm creating content and I'm influencing influencers. And I know everybody on this call is an influencer.
Yes,
And
that's right.
so hopefully you will leave this call not feeling like, not running from tension, but harnessing the power of tension,
Yeah.
asking yourself, how can tension help me leverage this moment? You can get the book if you want to at Amazon, Harnessing the Power of Tension. But I think the great thing that also happened during this time, Natalie, was what Colleen started.
Mhm.
Thrive, thrivetoday.com, right?
Yes,
Thrive,
thrivetoday.com.
yeah,
Mhm.
thrivetoday.com. It is it is a class A. I don't want to call it a magazine. I want to call it a journal. It is a class A, glossy, uh,
Yeah.
5 color, over 100 pages to it. And if you subscribe to that, I can tell you the one thing you will not do, you will not throw it away. You'll
Right.
feel guilty throwing it away. Now, if it is People Magazine, US News and World Report, Forbes, Money Inc., Fast Company, you may want to throw those away. But Thrive, you're going to feel like, no, I can't throw that away. So I'm just so proud of that during this time that Colleen started that, and then I mean, you're the messenger in the face of taking it globally. So that's so good, Natalie. Thank you for everything that you're doing too.
Well, thank you. And I feel like, part of what we should do today is put an offer out there for some of our women who maybe they've just been listening to the podcast. Maybe they haven't followed us on social media at Thrive Today Women. Maybe they are really just sitting on the outskirts listening to us talk and saying, this sounds really interesting. I'd like to know more. I think we should offer them something, don't you?
I think we ought to give some stuff away,
I
especially
think
when it is
so.
your stuff.
That's right. It's right. So let's do this. Thrivetoday.com is our website. And Dr. Chan and I were talking before this, and we think that there will be 3 ladies, obviously, have to listen to the end of this podcast, that would be able to jump onto thrivetoday.com, go to our subscription, drop us a line, drop us a note, and let us know that you heard this podcast with Dr. Sam Chan. Follow us on Instagram, share it to your social, and we will give the first 3 ladies that reach out to us, we will give you a free month of subscription to Thrive Today women, and you are not going to be disappointed. There are coaching calls, there are books that are coming out. As Dr. Chan mentioned, there's these beautiful journals that Pastor Colleen is producing, and so there's all this content that sits right at the place of your ministry or your work that you do, and it's a powerful thing to unlock this content and some of the thought leaders that are in these different materials that you're going to get.
And may I add that
Absolutely.
while this journal has definitely a feminine touch and a feminine motif to it, ladies, the men in your life will want to read it too. I want to tell you
That's
that
right.
you will get it, but the men in your life are going to love it as well. So leave it out there on the coffee table. You'll be surprised how it'll walk away from there, because the men in your life are going to utilize it as well. So don't just put it there. Uh, you have a gift, and I think you can it can keep on giving. I think that's a great idea that you're doing to give things away.
Yeah, that's the heart of Colleen Rouse. She's so generous and loves to see ladies thrive. And so this material is going to help you do that. Part of her mission in life is to take the success of your 9 to 5 and for you to connect that to the word of God. Because when you do that, that's a catalyst for the work that you do. It's almost like taking something and putting it on steroids, right? So we can try to do it on our own. We can be in our own lane, we can go it alone, but that's not very exciting. Or we can come alongside a community of other women who are cross pollinating and sharing their best practices that we know work, and have coaching calls and things like that, where we can all get together having the same mindset, same conversations, and really growing ourselves and thinking outside the box, which is really important if you're going to be a leader that leads for a long time and leaves a legacy.
Absolutely. And Natalie, everybody listening to us is a light and salt. And salt is not necessarily to make the food tastier. It is good, but in Jesus' time, salt was a preservative. Salt was an influencer. Salt allowed things to be sustainable. And so you are the salt, you're the light, and let your light so shine. In fact, I tell you what I would do is I would take that Thrive journal to work, leave it in the, if you have a lounge, leave it there. If you've got a conference room, leave it there,
Mhm.
or give it to somebody on purpose. If you subscribe to it, you can give it to a friend on purpose, because then you are doing what you are meant to do. You are multiplying yourself, and you're multiplying the seed that is within you, and your generosity can help somebody else and change their life. Because while Thrive journal is a Christian journal, it is not a preachy journal.
Right.
And you know the difference there. It can be biblical, but nobody's pointing a finger of condemnation at you. It's a
Right.
very uplifting, encouraging thing. So you can put that in the hands of anybody unapologetically, and know that they will look at it and say, wow, this is great stuff, because it talks about my finances, talks about my career, it talks about my
Mhm.
family, it talks about my future, it talks about my purpose. And who does not want to find all those things in their life? So I just want to encourage everyone to not just hold it in your hands, but become a seed to sow it out into others' lives as well.
I I love that. Thank you for your time today, Dr. Chan. Thanks for being with us.
What a joy to be with you. Thank you, Natalie.
Well, you can follow Dr. Chan on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, or you can go to his website, which is samchan.com. Well, ladies, if you haven't had a chance to join the community, what are you waiting for? Head over to thrivetoday.com right now and join us in community. You can subscribe, and it's only it's a very nominal fee a month. All you have to do is skip a couple of Starbucks and you're in. So join us on this journey. You can't do this alone. We don't want you to do it alone. We want to come alongside of you. So as you build your life, don't forget to build a legacy of leadership, community, and strength. We'll see you next time.